I am muted. Yes. Hello. Yes, yes, yes. I said, oh, hello, Chatsardis. Hello. It's been like 10 years since you've been here. What have you been up to while you were not here? And I am so happy that you're here. And also press like on the stream. And then you said muted, and I said, oh my God, I am muted. And then I unmuted and said, hello, Chatsardis. It's been like 10 years. And it's, you know, and so on and so forth. I looped. I cannot believe that I did the muted trick again. I got so many cool topics for tonight, mainly four main ones about Ukraine, about Poland, about the United States of America. Because the United States of America is the main country in the world and stuff. And there's what was the third topic? Okay, let me count the topics. Ukraine, shutdown, and what was the? Hold on, I've got it written down. Notebook. Oh, don't go anywhere. Don't go. Don't run away. Oh, oh, Jewish translation of the Torah. I've been good, thanks. I've been working and hanging around. Oh, well, where have you been hanging around? Also, consider joining the page. I was supposed to stream a lot earlier, but I fell asleep. But don't tell anybody that. If anybody asks you, we had a blackout here in Kiev. Oh yeah, I'm in Ukraine right now. I'm in Kiev. I'm doing journalism. Have I told you that my article got printed? I wrote a whole article and it got printed in a magazine. So I'm officially now a journalist. Okay, three main topics. Oh, Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk is the topic. Oh my God, I forgot. Oh, how could I forget that Pokrovsk is my topic? Why didn't you remind me? Why didn't you remind me that Pokrovsk was one of my topics? I thought we were friends. I thought we were friends, and you didn't even remind me that Pokrovsk was one of my topics. Remember, when I say action, you say satisfaction or something. I'm learning from Xander Hall how to do these things. When I say action, you say satisfaction. Oh, also, do you see the doggy in the lower left corner? That's my German Shepherd. He's called Fido. He's in Poland. He's waiting for me when I'm in Ukraine. He's very sad when I'm not home. German Shepherd, long-haired German Shepherd. You probably know that just from the visual. He is the best boy. He is best boy. I'm telling you. Fido is best boy. Oh, I have an idea. Oh my God. Okay. I got a treat for you. If only I'm here to watch a trash fire was here. With this. Where is the... Uh, mm, There we go. I've done it. I've done it good. Oh, you're on the side page now. Thank you. I was hanging out at skate parks playing skateboards. German Shepherds give me anxiety, but not Fido. Oh my gosh. Fido is too cute to give anxiety. Look at Fido. Look, isn't Fido cute? He's so friendly to everybody. He's always so friendly. It's like he jumps in the bed with me and, you know, and licks my face. He's the friendliest dog alive. Like, bush, bushu, bush, 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 bushu. You know, he's the cutest dog ever. Okay, I'm gonna show you a debate here to watch a trash fire. Should be here. You know, whatever. There's a debate between Rob Noor. Where's the Rob Noor debate? Rob Noor Snap debate. People debate Snap with me in YouTube comments. Unironically, unfortunately. He looks like a good boy, I cannot lie, that is true. Thank you. He's best boy. I love him very much. He's the only reason why I come back to Poland, by the way. Fido's the only reason, because he is very sad when I'm not. I always give him hot dogs. Yeah, I have to write on the. You are on my Discord, right, Chazardis? You're on the Giggle card. I'm gonna show you the coolest debate ever. The debate about Snap. Oh, snap. Everybody really open it. Aw. We should open it more. You know what my quest is right now, right? You know what my big goal is right now, right? My big goal is right now to grow from a micro streamer to a small streamer. That is my big goal. So you're helping me in that goal by being here. 3 days ago. Do SNAP benefits need significant reform? First Amendment versus Rob Noor. Modern day debate. Is this Andrew Wilson? Oh. Should we watch this on his? Or on...
If we're not having the...
Andrew Wilson and Muslim debater Daniel Hukikachu collide in Nashville, Tennessee this November 15th and 16th at
God, it's been so long since I've seen modern day debate. It's been so long.
at DebateCon 6 on whether or not Christian or Islamic values are better for society. You don't want to miss it. Grab your tickets by
I
clicking
missed it. Tickets.
on this link right now so you don't miss out on this epic debate conference.
Wait, tickets? What? What? What do you mean tickets? Huh? That's so weird. Buying tickets for a debate, for a YouTube debate. Can you believe that? I would never.
Featuring that debate and many others.
Wait, what happened?
Hey,
Oh.
everybody. Tonight we're debating whether or not SNAP benefits need significant reform, and we are starting right now with Rob's opening statement. Thanks for being with us. Rob, the floor is all yours.
Hello, Epic Debate Con tickets. Yes. Yes. Hello, Vladimir. Vladimir, I'm gonna be talking about why Poland is shit. I don't know how to say it different. Poland is shit. Thoughts? Also, my article has been printed, apparently. My article has been already printed. So I really want to get a copy of the magazine, and then I'll be able to show you my article. Also, oh, my phone. Hold on. I kind of describe the thing I would do before I would purchase tickets to a YouTube debate. True. Hello, Lucy, whatever. I'm just gonna sit and listen. To my article or why Poland is bad. Unfortunately, one of my topics today is the rising anti-Ukrainian sentiment in Poland. I've been bombarded. Listen, I've been bombarded with anti-Ukrainian crap on Twitter recently. And it's been very discouraging. I've just been bombarded with this crap.
Yours.
Thank you so much, James. It's always
Thank you.
my pleasure to be
Snap.
here. First Amender, thank you so much for this debate. I think it'll be a good one and a timely one, given what we see with the government shutdown and SNAP benefits shutting down. So to start my opening statement, I think, given the topic has a few words that there could be some controversy over, I'll just get my definitions for these out of the way. Hopefully this doesn't
boy.
become a semantic issue, but by SNAP benefits, we just mean what's colloquially called food stamp. That's sort of what we're talking about. I don't anticipate any tricks there. I think we both are understanding what we're talking about here. The word significant may cause some sort of umbrage, and significant, I'll just use simply Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition,
Oh,
meaning
boy.
to have meaning, or to have a likely influence or effect. And so that's how I'll be using the word. Again, I don't anticipate any real controversy there. And then reform, by that we just simply mean changing what we have right now or the policy as it has been. So given that, I'd like to highlight 3 areas of reform that I think will be necessary. Now, given the nature of the debate, I only need to win any one of these, and it would be considered a significant reform. And I want to hyper focus on the third area, the most in this debate, given the time constraints that we have. But I think it's worth mentioning that there are a ton of areas where we could have actual significant reform.
Oh, it's loading. Why is it loading?
And I'll highlight on 3 broad areas and just talk about maybe sort of the lowest hanging fruit that I could see from each of these areas. The first area I would like to highlight on is we could have significant reforms in our SNAP benefits and who is eligible to receive SNAP. Now, right now,
SNAP.
we have non-citizens making up 1.7 million people a year. This cost over $5.7 billion a year. And this is non-citizens. This would include non-illegals, which if they're able to, through identification, stealing people's identities, etc., obtain these benefits. This number of 1.7 million is not including that. This is including people that are here on green cards that aren't citizen. It's including people that are here on student visas, etc.
Right, so those are people that contribute to society. No? Like people on green cards can have a job and put in money to the budget. So why wouldn't they be able to use SNAP? That makes no sense. If that's the implication here. And that makes no sense, doesn't it? Does it? Right? People on temporary cards can be very much a benefit to society. So they should also be able to use the benefits, right? Or no? Am I wrong? Am I incorrect? I think I'm correct.
We have the right in this country to have guests of this country who are a net input into the country and not that are draining our resources. Even if they are receiving a net input into our tax base over what they receive in SNAP benefits, we would want to bring in people that are more ready to work and provide to this country rather than those that require these sorts of benefits.
Wait, hold on. If they and that makes no sense. If they put in a net benefit into the economy, in comparison to what they take out in SNAP, then that's a benefit. Period.
And $5.7 billion a year is nothing to sneeze at, particularly in this world where American citizens, in the form of young people, like my opponent here, First Amender, his sort of generation is really struggling. The average age of first-time homebuyers at this point are 40 years old. By the way, not to assume your age, First Amender. You look very good, so I assumed you were young. So given that we have that sort of country where young people
You look very good is a very homoerotic statement to make.
we're struggling with healthcare needs, with home ownership, and a bunch of other things, even affording the price of groceries. And this is also true of all generations, including older folks like me. We really need to take out these people that are driving up the cost of our groceries by receiving fury
Take them out. You want to take people out.
ones that are non-citizen. In addition to that, we should do steps to make sure that all able-bodied adults are being weaned off after an emergency period. 21% of SNAP households in the fiscal year 2023 exclusively had one or the more of non-elderly adults without a disability and without children. These households tended to be single-person households with low monthly income. These people are of working age, they are not disabled, they do not have children, and yet still we see of the people that are obtaining SNAP benefits, a full 21%, nearly 1 in 5, are from this category. I propose that we take even more steps to make sure, even beyond what the big beautiful bill did, which just goes into effect here in November, which obviously because the shutdown hasn't gone into effect, so it would still be a significant reform. But we need to go above and beyond what they recommended to make sure that these able-bodied adults aren't using this as a way of life, but merely as a 1 to 3 month emergency period. 26% of able-bodied adults who get SNAP don't work at all within that same fiscal year. That means if you're an able-bodied adult, 1 out of every 4
Able-bodied.
that get these SNAP benefits don't work for the entire year within the point where they get that. This is unacceptable. There is no reason that these people can't be doing at least minimum wage jobs that will wean them off these benefits. So I'm proposing that we institute rules that say that they only have 3 months, and then they have to not only fulfill their work requirement rules, but be kicked off of SNAP if they are unable to get on work programs. The
Wait,
next
but-
area I'll focus on is significant
I
reforms into
thought SNAP were for people that were food insecure. I'm pretty sure that minimum wage job will not fix food insecurity.
how people access these benefits. The first I have no data on, and I'm willing to hear a debate on this, but I propose that possibly we should get away from the card system and go back to the stamp system. This wasn't able to be as freely used and able to be as swiped at as many stores where things could get out of control. And it also did include an area of sort of an understanding that this didn't operate the same as other money, which provided an incentive for people to get off of these benefits. In addition, there needs to be harsher penalties for people that are trafficking in food stamps. There are a lot of ways that there is abuse in this. Nearly 10 to 11% in the most recent fiscal years of the payments that have gone under SNAP have been incorrect or inaccurate payments. That means we're paying 11% of these monies that are not fraudulent but wrong. In addition to that, we have
Wait, but incorrect might be incorrect like that in a way that is disadvantageous to the person. Maybe the people are receiving less than they should. Incorrect does not mean that they're receiving more than they should. It could mean that they are receiving less.
outright fraud that goes above that, which is another 2%. We need to have harsher penalties for fraud in food stamps. Retail trafficking, which the stores themselves are faking this data so they can enrich themselves off of tax dollar data, indicate an increase in the estimated retail trafficking in recent years. Now, the most recent study I could find of this was from 2011 that estimated approximately $330 million in SNAP benefits, which is around 1% of all those redeemed, were trafficked illegally between the years 2006 and 2018, and that approximately 8.2% of all authorized stores engaged in fraudulent trafficking. Also, there's almost no arrest for these things. The OIG reported the increases in number of convictions in fiscal year 2007 from 2017, 311. Despite the fact that 8% of the thousands of stores traffic in this. This gets beyond the point that individuals themselves.
Oh, but I'm seeing this person did not do very well in this debate. I'm of course pro Snap, just so you know.
Are trafficking, and it's hard to find this data because almost no one's ever
There
criminally
should be a limit, by the way, to those opening statements. You should not be able to just ramble on for 10 minutes straight.
or financially charged for this. Almost a huge portion of people that are on these sorts of benefits sell these benefits for money for other things. They'll go out and buy groceries for a neighbor or something that will pay them roughly 50% of the value of your money that went to their SNAP benefits so they could do things like gamble, buy video games, buy cigarettes, and buy other illicit materials.
I like
The
video
waste
games.
is also terrible. The national payment error rate for the fiscal year 2024 is 10.93%.
Hello, Shakespeare.
I'm proposing
I'm watching this debate. Oh, I have to watch. Oh, whatever. I don't care about the debate anymore. I got bored. Okay, I'm gonna watch the thing that you sent me. Hold on. I'm gonna change the title. Okay, I don't care about the debate anymore. I got bored. Rob Noir has put me to sleep with his boring ass intro. Okay, got tired. Okay, we're changing the title. I got bored of the. Bottom line is, I am pro Snap. I think people should be getting Snap, and I think people should be able to get whatever they want on Snap. There you go. That's my view on Snap. Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs on a podcast. Boom. Boom. I bet a ton of people will come to see that. That is so fascinating that I bet people will come to watch it. Also, give some love to my videos. Please give some love to my VODs. Okay, this is far more interesting than the debate, actually.
This episode is brought to you by Wordsmith AI. I mean, increasingly,
you.
of course, in all the organizations we work in, we can get massively slowed
Oh, literally, Rob Bohr. Very interesting, Zoshalix, that you say that just when I said, oh my God, I got so bored. I'm clicking off, and I'm gonna watch the Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs go on a podcast because just more interesting. Because Rob Noir put me to sleep in his opening statement, so I just couldn't take it anymore, so I clicked off. Sorry. I just don't have the energy. I don't have the power. I'm in a war. Oh yeah. Whoever just arrived on the stream, did you know that my article apparently has already been printed? My article has been printed, so if I don't feel bad for that. Hello, just here to watch a trash fire. I saw you commented on the Blair White thing. Jesus Christ, people keep commenting on the Blair White thing. I'm starting to feel bad about the fact that like this morning, I looked at my VODs and I was like, oh, the video about the kidnapping of children has 5 views and the Blair White nonsense has 700 plus views. I feel sad. Kind of feel sad about that, actually. I know, it's very weird. Those comments that they're doing are very... The weirdest comment on that under that video is, you're not a trans woman. You're just a man wanting to be a trans woman. I'm like, what? What does that even mean? Well, there are more views on the... It's 25 views now on the... Not the brightest bulbs. Oh no. It's 25 views now on the kidnapped children, but it's also 734 on Blair White. Just, wow. Okay, let's watch some Sikorski. Thank you for the tier 1. What did you think of the meme I sent? Wait, what meme did you send? Where's the meme? Oh, just because we're on the same team doesn't mean we're not enemies. Yeah, that's true. That is a cool meme.
Up by the paperwork, the processes, the forms, the legal advice.
And that's why in business today, it's all of us, legal teams, companies are facing a choice: lead the AI shift or risk being left behind.
And companies like
Okay,
Trustpilot,
enough about
Deliveroo,
AI.
Skyscanner, or
God.
Smith is helping legal teams around the world with clarity and confidence.
There's free access
Enough about AI. Jesus, I don't care.
Welcome to the Restless
I almost clicked off again because the people talking about AI just turns me off. Also, please consider pressing the like button and joining lucyhaza.org/live in order to help me in life.
Politics Leading with me, Rory Stewart.
and with me, Alistair Campbell. Rory's in London, I'm in Poland, and I'm very happy to be with the Polish Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Radek Sikorski. And
Radosław Sikorski, isn't that cool? In Poland. Imagine being in Poland. Couldn't be me. I'm in Ukraine. Have I mentioned that my article that I had published is printed, which makes me officially a journalist. I'm a journalist that does journalism in war. I've joined the proud crowd of journalist streamers. Isn't that cool? Lucy Haza, the journalist streamer. Have you ever thought that would happen? And now I'm writing a second article that they already, the magazine that publishes me is interested in my second article. They want to publish that too. Isn't that great? So I became their correspondent. And people happy about my super cool success? Thank you. Jack, don't do it. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. It's true. Now I have to get... accreditation from the Ukrainian military, and I'll be able to get to more places.
I was thinking, Rory, that you two have a lot in common. You both have initials, RS. You are highly adventurous writers and journalists. You've written.
I'm a journalist. Yee. I'm a highly adventurous journalist.
Articles and books and made films in war zones, including Afghanistan. You're both.
I'm making a movie in the war zone. Okay, I'm making a movie. Well, it's not a movie. It's just a, what do you call it? You call it an interview. Can I show you something? Can I show you something? Oh my God! Can I show you a preview of? Oh my God! I'm so excited to show you something. Okay. Okay. Can I show you something? I asked 5 times if I can show you something, but I kind of want to show you something. Okay? Is it okay if I show you something? Oh, wait. Is it okay if I show you something? Oh. Huh? That's weird. Okay, look at this. I want to show you something, okay? No? No, I'm still gonna show you something. Okay. Let me show you something. It's a preview of my thing. Media source. User. Browse. See. Uh, uh, um, uh, videos. Yes. This is the ID. Oh.
Okay, my name is Kalia, I'm 16. I'm from Bakhmut in Donetsk region. Yeah, I was really young, so for me it was like really shocked, and I think more trauma make like 2014 than 2022 because I was younger and we like tried to escape it and sit in this kindergarten and wait when it ended. It was like, and we also live with my aunt and newborn cousin. And we like hiding in a small, like, I don't know how to say, it's like one room without window. So I don't know, like we use it for some stuff or something like that. It was really tiny, and we like sit here like I know 4 people. I don't remember, something like that. So yeah, and that's all what I remember from this time.
And that's it. What do you think? What do you think? Thoughts? Oh, my German Shepherd's name is Fido, the real American patriotic name for a dog. Any thoughts? Any of you? Yeah? This is what I'm working on right now. I'm gonna release it. On yeah. What do you think? Nobody? Just Jack Don't Do It's gonna write what they think? Anybody else? Nobody else? How's the AI generated? Jesus. It's not very patriotic of you, Vladimir. It's not very... Fake Cal Parker, say something. Shakespeare. Just here to watch a trash fire. Zoshalix? No?
Both Oxford graduates in PPE. You're both passionate about foreign and security policy. You're internationalists. You're fellows of top American universities. You're both married to
I'm also passionate.
very strong American wives. You both have
Oh. I almost expected him to say you are both married to the same woman. You're both married to the same person.
two sons. You're both conservatives with experience of government. And I think you've both
Conservatives.
become a little bit more centrist and sensible over time. And Radek was once actually a British citizen, as we shall hear. And I first became a member of a government as Deputy Defence Minister as far back as 1990.
You're both conservatives, but you both became more normal as time goes. He said it. I'm sorry, he said it. You both became more sensible as time went on. AKA you both became less of you both became less lunatics.
1992, Senior Minister 2007, in and out of government, back in 2023 as Foreign Minister and now Deputy Prime Minister, and a
You used to be more conservative, but you got better.
regular voice and face on British media, not just because of his fluency, but also because he's one of the world's leading critics, I would argue, of Russian expansionism.
You don't want me to become more sensible? You want me to be more right-wing instead? Trump lives free in these guys' mind.
And Putin's conduct of the war in Ukraine. So a lot to talk about.
I
Rory,
mean, maybe if Trump would be less incompetent, then maybe he would not live rent-free in my head. He still cannot believe that Trump said that he would lower the prices of medicine by 800%. That is the funniest thing ever.
where do you want to start?
Firstly, welcome, Deputy Prime Minister, and thank you so much for joining us. Can we start back at
I'm so sorry that you have to care about my stupid country. It's okay. I have a lot of nice people that I care about in the US.
the extraordinary transition, or at least it seems from the outside, that you went through going from communist Poland to Oxford University, and what was Poland like in the 1980s, and what was your vision of Oxford in the 1980s, and what did you take from that contrast?
That's right. I was in Britain when martial law was imposed in Poland by General Jaruzelski, and I became an asylum seeker and an asylum beneficiary. And
Well, there you go. My father was an oppositionist when the martial law was imposed in Poland, and he got arrested the very first day when the martial law was implemented. As an oppositionist, they went to the apartment and they took him away and they locked him up in prison for a year. That interview looks interesting. Have you been interviewing people for a documentary? Yes. Yes. I'm planning to release my interview soon with a 16-year-old from Bakhmut. Yes, that's the main thing that I do when I'm in Ukraine. I do interviews with people, with families, with with rescued children, with children that are suffering from war. Extraordinary transition, Mr. Prime Minister. Deputy Prime Minister. It's already printed. My article is already printed, actually. It has already been printed, believe it or not. I wish they gave me a copy of the magazine. It's a Polish magazine called The New Eastern Europe. Nowa Europa Wschodnia. It's a tri-monthly magazine, so it has to be a fat magazine. Sounds good. When will the doc come out? I'm working on my first draft right now. So I'm gonna add certain subtitles. I'm gonna add certain explanations, some B-roll to make it more interesting. Sometimes this week. I should be releasing the interviews sometimes this week, and I'm gonna be starting a new channel. I'm gonna be putting all of my interviews and Ukraine war-related videos on a separate YouTube channel. I've been advised to do that. I've been told to start some YouTube channel called Lucy Haze Movies or something and put all the war-related content there. So it doesn't get mixed up with the stream, with the trash fire. Put it bluntly. Yes. Lucy Haze Industries. It's okay. I still have to buy Fido his first shock collar. I still have to buy him like a collar that will be too tight because of his neck meat or whatever. Neck meat. Fido's too okay. Fido's not very happy right now. Admittedly, Fido is not a super happy dog right now because he is sad that I'm not home, but overall he is too happy. What about Lucy Haze Gaming? I'll subscribe. Lucy Haze Gaming, it's this channel already. I do gaming on this channel already. Should I actually unironically start a separate channel for gaming exclusively? I think I'm too small to do that actually. I would consider just separating the gaming altogether. Do you think I should? Unironically. But yes.
I've gone back to my own country. And there was an extraordinary outpouring of sympathy for Poland at the time of the Solidarity resistance against communism. Actually, that was interesting from both the right and the left.
Yeah, my father was in Solidarity. Actually, my father got condolences from all the politicians when he passed away in the news. They all wrote, there were news segments in all TV stations. Politicians wrote on Twitter about him passing. I guess for them who don't enjoy Trash Fires and prefer just gaming. True, I do like Trash Fires. What am I doing? Yes. Yes. I do like Trash Fires.
Left. From the right, because we were anti-communist, and from the left, because Solidarity was a trade union. So it was a cause that resonated everywhere. And yes,
Sorry, what?
Solidarity was a from the right, because we were anti-communist, and from the left, because Solidarity was a trade union. So it was a cause.
Also, my father was a socialist. My father was a socialist who actually was part of the government and part of the group that constructed the constitution that is in effect now.
That resonated everywhere. And yes, I remember studying at Pembroke College, Oxford, with great fondness.
How did you get there, though? Because when you went to Britain, presumably you weren't as fluent in English as you are now.
I was actually quite good. We have something called the National Olympics in various subjects, and I was in the English Language Olympics. And then I attended Southwark College to get the proficiency in English certificate.
But you got to Oxford, which is, you know.
Also, hello, Rez. Please consider joining lucyhazard.org/live. Because I need your help. I need your help to survive in Kyiv.
That's quite a journey to have gone.
Sure. And I attended an interview, and I remember being asked, so what do you think about Marxism at the interview? And I said, I come from communist Poland. I have not yet met a Marxist, but maybe I'll meet one here.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. And what was it like going?
It's actually not true. There were actually quite a few Marxists in quote-unquote communist Poland. There were quite a few Marxists in communist Poland that opposed the communist government, believe it or not. So that's not actually a correct statement by Mr. Sikorski. Just so you know. One of the most famous Polish politicians, one of the most famous Polish oppositionists, Jacek Kuroń, was a Marxist, so...
To school. Your parents were both anti-communist.
My father was the head of Solidarity in his architectural office, yes.
Yeah, and you inherited that sort of basic view of Polish politics at the time. But give us a feel for what it was like being educated in a Polish school under the communists. How did that differ from the education you then had in Britain?
Basic and secondary education was actually then, and it still is, pretty good in Poland. So we give good education for...
Far better than the US. Just gonna put it out there. It's the primary school and high school education is on a higher level in Poland than it is in the US. Unfortunately for the US. Very sad for the US. I could go on a whole rant as to how education is organized in the US, how funding of schools is organized in the US, how much awful outcomes it creates for schools. And there's so much to talk about when it comes to schools in the US. How when a school is underfunded because of property tax or whatever silly business, the solution is not to fund the school more to raise its level. No, it's, I guess, to fund it less. The American school system is just a bizarre question mark for me.
For the great majority of people, whereas you have these elite universities and elite schools. So it's the other way around in Poland.
So why did you send your own children to one of our elite schools that Rory went to?
Well, it's a good school.
Okay, it's a very expensive school as well.
So, Deputy Prime Minister, give us a sense of what the economic conditions were like in Poland in the 1980s and what they were like in Britain, and what contrasts you saw between the two. And then also, what was the contrast in terms of your sense of political freedom? It's difficult, I think, for people to imagine Poland in the 1980s. Of course, it was not Stalin's Russia, but equally it was not contemporary Denmark. What did it feel like?
So Poland in the late 70s, early 80s was communist, but there was no terror. There was, people were jailed, people were interned, some people were killed during anti-communist demonstrations, but there wasn't mass terror. There wasn't even the kind of repression you have in Russia today, where you have 3,500 political prisoners. But Poland was impoverished by communism. We were at the end of the 1980s. We were the poorest by comparison with the European average in our 1,000-year history. So our GDP per capita was a third.
Well, there was also no freedom of speech. There was no freedom of the press, and many other things like that. That is also worth pointing out because a lot of people went into opposition. A lot of people opposed the government based on those things. And the solidarity movement based, and all of the intellectuals went into the whole movement because of the lack of those freedoms.
Of the European average. And going from communist Poland to Britain was a really big deal. It was really difficult. Not only getting a passport was not automatic. You had to apply to the communist authorities. I was only 18, so I didn't have a record yet, which is why I could do it. But then you needed a visa, and then you needed a plane ticket to London, which was, this was something you had to plan a year ahead. And the contrast was unbelievable. The iconic a picture from communist Poland was a food queue, whereas today Poland is a huge exporter of foodstuffs, of agricultural products, including to Britain. Most of your cider is made from Polish apples.
Really?
Yes.
There's me think it was all from Somerset. No, let's just flick back to Oxford, because you've obviously got something about you that, as I say, to go from
cider,
Poland.
by the way, I like cider. So this is very cool that most of British cider is made of Polish apples. I did not know that. I learned something. If there's anything that I have learned on today's stream, it is that most of British cider is made out of Polish apples. And if you can take away anything from this stream, take that.
You don't just get to university, you get to Oxford. And then you fall in with this extraordinary crowd of people who ended up basically running Britain. You were friendly with Boris Johnson. You knew David Cameron. You knew George Osborne. You knew all these people. Were you always...
Well, look, wait a second.
Okay.
In my job, you know a thing or two. There are state secrets.
Oh.
There are NATO secrets.
And there are Bullingdon Club secrets. Okay. I wasn't even... You raised the Bullingdon, not me. Okay. I wasn't even going... Well, I might have been going there. But you were clearly a very political animal. Yeah. Even back then.
I was a hack at the Oxford Union.
Were you instinctively what I would define as right-wing?
I was anti-communist.
Right.
And because Maggie Thatcher was anti-communist and pro-market, and she was, tough on the Soviet Union, I thought I liked that. I now have a somewhat different view, but in those days...
Interesting. Tell us about your new views.
That was the most important thing.
So was I right that you've kind of moved a bit from the right into the centre?
Thatcher and Reagan spoke of the state as if it was not quite the enemy, but as if the market could fix everything. And actually, I now know that, even on purely financial grounds, in most civilized countries, the state accounts for 45% of GDP. So
my goodness,
quality of spending of almost half of your GDP, in other words, the quality of state institutions matters. And it's also the quality of your judiciary, the quality of your administration of public services actually affects your economic performance a great deal.
Before we bring you back into the core of your political life, one of the way I first knew about you was your travels in Afghanistan. Extraordinary travels with the Mujahideen during the 1980s, during the Russian occupation. A very, very courageous journey to Herat, some amazing books and articles. Tell us a little bit about what that was like and your memories of Afghanistan in that period and presumably the very considerable risks that you and your colleagues were taking at that time.
Well, the contrast was considerable. So one day we are with friends at, having the last party at Oxford University, and 6 weeks later I was in a cave in Afghanistan, a flea-infested cave, if I may say so. And I'd been preparing for that journey with Chris Robson, a friend from my year. And we made it to the Kabul Jalalabad road at a place called Jagdalek, which was actually the place where the last British square was cut down during the first Afghan war in 1830 or 31. He was filming, I was taking photographs. And then I spent 6 weeks in Tora Bora when it was our base. And I brought out the first pictures of Stinger missiles on the battlefield.
Which was a big thing at the time.
Which made a dramatic difference on the battlefield, because one day we were bombed and rocketed by Soviet Hind helicopters from close quarters. And as soon as the missiles were used, they flew high and couldn't do anything to us. And that meant that the Soviets couldn't reinforce or resupply their...
Damn. And then Sikorsky got bombed and died. And the timeline got changed. Vladimir says, how civilized are we? Huh? Like, honestly, legit question. Let's just start from the mankind in general. From mankind in general. How are we doing nowadays? So, we're killing the planet. We're making the planet uninhabitable for humans. We're probably gonna be some life form that's gonna survive, no problem. We're waging wars. Humans are killing humans for stupid, petty reasons. I don't know. I think we're doing pretty good. I think we're all pretty civilized. Actually, I'm proud. I'm proud to be a human.
Garrisons. And so they were faced with a choice, either to double their contingent or leave.
Did you go in the same spirit as perhaps people on the left in British politics would go and fight Franco in Spain? What was your motivation to go?
I did read my old...
Wasn't he a journalist or something? What do you mean? In what spirit? If you, as a journalist, you go to report. That's the spirit. No? Humanity in general isn't civilized. We haven't learned much. Maybe I'm being a doomer. We've learned everything. We now know how to destroy the planet with far more sufficiency. Like, we're far more sufficient when it comes to destroying the planet, and we're far more sophisticated when it comes to killing one another. So I would say that we're very civilized. Yeah.
Well,
my sarcasm today is on point.
Suppose so, but remember that at the time nobody was giving the Mujahideen any chance. Yeah, bunch of guerrillas facing the mighty Soviet Union. And my Afghan comrades would be telling me, and I also thought this was...
Guerrillas are facing the Soviet Union. Oh, damn. It's not just about humans anymore. Guerrillas are facing the Soviet Union. Oh my god, I cannot believe that Rob Noor has 700 live viewers. Holy crap. Oh my gosh. Okay, never mind. I've got my dose of depression for tonight.
Unrealistic. You know, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting to liberate the world from communism. Actually, they were wrong. They were right.
One thing that, of course, changed after your time in Afghanistan is that the Mujahideen then began to seem more complicated. Having been great heroes in the 80s and early 90s after 9/11, particularly people's perspective on
warfare.
Muslims fighting became quite different. Did that give you, when the West was intervening in Iraq and Afghanistan, some understanding of who our enemies were? Did it give you a sort of, at least an imaginative understanding of how other people perceive us?
Of course, you know that people confuse the Mujahideen with the Taliban. My guerrilla friends were not fanatics in the sense of being anti-Western. Quite the contrary, they were grateful for the assistance that they were getting. But you know, these perceptions have changed even since then. You know, I remember, I don't know about you, but I thought that, you know, the American intervention in Afghanistan was justified because that's where Osama bin Laden was. The Taliban would refuse to give him up. So the US had to do what it had to do. And Iraq seemed like the war of choice that didn't go well. But now, actually, Iraq is doing well. And Afghanistan is back under Taliban rule. So, you know, you're right that what happens in the future determines how we look at the past.
So you go off for Oxford to do that in Afghanistan, and you kind of
Iraq
made a name.
is doing well? Oh boy.
For yourself in all sorts of ways
He's okay in Ukraine.
doing that. The guys you left behind, I mentioned them, Cameron, Johnson, Osborne. Did you see in them at the time the political and personal skills, whatever it was that they had, and the personality?
Nobody's perfect, I guess. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say about that. Nobody's perfect. Even Mr. Sikorski. Jesus Christ.
Could you have imagined them then as being chancellors and prime ministers in a British government?
Oh yeah, we knew Boris would be prime minister.
Seriously, back then. Given I still look at him and can't understand how he ever became prime minister. Tell me what I was missing.
Well, the man had a charisma. You know, when he entered the room, you felt that someone entered.
Back in Oxford?
Yes, and he was very successful. He became president of the Oxford Union. And, you know, Oxford Union is a unique institution that, for example, in Poland we don't have, where you learn rhetorical skills and where you learn, you know, after you've done politicking at the Oxford Union, normal politics is a piece of cake.
And Cameron?
He was a year above me. I met him, but I didn't know him.
You met him at the Bullingdon Club?
No, actually later on.
Okay. So who did you meet at the Bullingdon Club? Which hotels did you and Johnson, which did you
think
try?
I've already...
See, this is the dividing line between boys and men. Like Sikorski was a boy and he went to Oxford, and my dad was a man and he went to prison for fighting for his country. There you
We
go.
answered that
Have
question.
you? Your answer, that's a state secret. Okay. And then you come back to, I mean, was I right that you were Deputy Defence Minister by 1992?
I was.
So you've come back. Are you then trying to push Poland in a certain direction, presumably towards NATO?
Obviously, and that was my job. But it was more interesting than that. So this was literally just 2 years after the fall of communism.
Incredible.
So at our military council of the ministry, several members were members of the junta that ran Poland in the 1980s. It was a meeting of civilizations.
Incredible. Incredible. And so
What?
tell me how you went from that.
Wait, what? What did I just hear? What a weird what a weird way to describe it. What a strange way to describe it.
How long did it take you to get Poland on the path to NATO?
I helped to organize the first visit by Secretary General of NATO, Manfred Werner, to Poland. And it was at that time that we stated for the first time that that's what we ultimately wanted to join, while we were still having Soviet troops in our country, who only left in '93.
As we move forward, Russia, your relationship with Russia, Poland's relationship with Russia, evolved very significantly over this period. And I think there was a period in the mid-2000s, sort of 2005, 2000.
No, Poland has a pretty long history with Russia. It's even in the title, 500 years of resisting Russia.
When it felt as though...
I really hope that Sikorski will not say anything stupid about history. I'm gonna rage quit this if Sikorski starts saying something really stupid about history, just so you know. I don't have patience for illiteracy on history.
You were trying
I
to...
have some patience, but not a lot. Just some.
Create a warmer relationship with Russia. And this has a parallel actually with Alistair, because famously his great friend Tony Blair said to him after the first meeting with Vladimir Putin, "I think this is somebody we can do business with." Tell us a little bit about this period. And
that is how many thought that Russia is a place to do business with. Unfortunately, that's been a thing. Yeah.
what people's perceptions of Putin were. Were we naive? Was he always like this? Did he change?
Well, Poland's
He
relationship.
was always like this. The West was very, I wouldn't even say naive. I would say that the West was very cynical. I would say that the West has enabled Putin. I would say that the West has just turned a blind eye to Putin. I would say that the reality is that the West did not care what Putin did until, as long as it felt that it could do business. That's the reality of the situation.
With Russia goes back 500 years, okay? And they colonized us at the end of the 18th century, and we were a Russian colony for 123 years. So let's just remember that. They also invaded Poland together with Nazi Germany in 1939, and then subjected us to 45 years of communism. So, you know, it all has, there's a lot of history. Poland produces more history than can be consumed locally. But yes, it was President Obama who first said that the United States wanted a reset. You know, this was a time when I was first defense minister in 2005 and then foreign secretary, when the European Union was negotiating an association agreement with Russia.
Yeah.
You know, Russia was saying, we want economic integration with the West.
G7 became G8.
Yeah, and you know, we were discussing the negotiating mandate for the European Commission to make this agreement.
Yes, you have to become a democracy. Oh, well, never mind. Never mind.
And you know, people still remind me that that we tried to normalize our relations with Russia, but I thought it was worth trying.
You actually speculated at one point that you might be able to get Russia one day into NATO.
I was saying that it would be in our interest for Russia to fulfill NATO criteria, which
Being a
is democracy, which
Oops.
is fixing your relationships with your neighbors. You know, if Russia fulfilled those conditions, should be a different country.
Yeah.
And, you know, Putin came to Gdańsk on the 80th anniversary
My
of
God.
the Second World War, thereby acknowledging that that's when the war started, not with the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union. There was
Yeah.
a denial of the Stalinist narrative of history. Actually, he was the first leader of Russia to come to Katyn, the place of the murder of thousands of Polish POWs. We had a group on
Well, that ended very quick. Also, the Soviet archives were open, all the evidence surfaced, and now Russia is just denying it. Russia is just denying it all, even though factual evidence surfaced from Russia.
difficult issues. Polish and Russian historians established the difficult facts of common history, which is not a small thing, because you can't really reconcile. You know,
Admitted things, yeah.
the patriarch of Russia
greater,
came, and they, with our church, they issued a statement on reconciliation, modeled consciously on the 1960s statement with the German bishops. So it seems to be slowly going maybe in the right direction.
And tell me, one guy that you've
Until
met,
it
I've met
didn't.
Putin several times, but I
Until it didn't. It all was good until it was not. What do you know? Well, what do you know? I'm sorry. Putin was breaking the. Look, Putin was cracking down on democracy from day one. Just people didn't want to see it because it was business with Putin. It was very convenient to do business with Putin, with the guy who immediately started cracking down on the press and basic freedoms in Russia, and doing any semblance of democracy that was ever there.
don't
What a
ever
joke.
think I've ever met Lavrov. You met Lavrov, the foreign minister, often. What's your sense of him? Why? How has he
Snake. Slimy snake. I hope that Sikorski says that, because it's the truth.
managed to be such a survivor in a world where very few survive real longevity? And what should we make of him? What will history make of Lavrov?
My
Snake.
feeling that he was a real foreign minister until the Anschluss of Crimea.
You think he was a real foreign minister?
In other words, he had influence over
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
And since then, he's become just a spokesman. But I wouldn't describe him as a survivor. You see, in an autocratic system like that, you can't say Mr. President, I disagree with the policy, I resign. No, you serve at the dictator's pleasure.
So he literally is just Putin's puppet.
Yeah.
He's a spokesman, let's say.
Just to develop this idea then, what happened to Vladimir
He's also a
Putin's
snake.
view of the world then? If he was sincere, and those moments you're talking about when he's visiting Gdansk,
He wasn't.
acknowledging the Katyn massacre.
No, he wasn't.
The
He was
patriarchs
not, he was
visiting.
absolutely not sincere. He was playing the long game. That is my opinion.
What explains the change? What explains
There was
the
no
Putin that
change.
we see today?
Obviously, not one cause. If you read Putin's plan for Russia as prime minister, it was a plan for modernization, and not just military modernization, but a social modernization. And then I think he found that it was too difficult. There were too many oligarchic and bureaucratic interests. And then
he found corruption was too easy?
I'm sure that too.
No,
Then
the reality is, I think he just did it for show, to be honest. I don't think he started out good intentioned. He tried doing this, but it was too difficult. No, he was, like, there are many actual biographies of Putin of that time that already started mentioning that he is cracking down on the press and many other freedoms, but that people are turning a blind eye to it on purpose. I'm sorry, this is just silly. The warning signs were there from day one.
Things started going wrong. You know, in this part of the world, we have more sensitive antenna for changes of Russian policy because it's, you know, potentially such a threat. So when he unveiled a plaque to the memory of Andropov, on, you know, his former KGB boss, on Lubyanka, I remember thinking this is going in the wrong direction. And then when they changed school curricula to teach children a view of Tsarist and communist, expansionist history and ideology, I thought, this is not going to end well. And then I think the final straw was 2011, people forget, Arab Spring, when he saw Gaddafi emerging from that sewer or Mubarak in an iron cage, and he saw huge demos in Moscow and St. Petersburg protesting his return to the Kremlin. I think he saw himself in the place of Mubarak and Gaddafi.
Interesting, very interesting. Listen, we'll come back to Ukraine, but I want to. You served in the government with the Law and Justice Party, and then you resigned, and you
Yes, the Law and Justice Party. Good move to resign under the Law and Justice Party, by the way.
You shifted to Donald Tusk, and you were his foreign minister almost 20 years ago. You know, back in both of you in the same jobs. And there was a speech I read that you did, I think back in 2010, 2011. You said this: "I fear German power less than I'm beginning to fear German inactivity." Can you just unpick that one for me?
Well, that was at the height of the Euro crisis. And Germany, I felt, was being tardy in addressing the Greek financial crisis. That if Germany acted earlier, it could have been resolved with much smaller resources. And I actually repeated this phrase this year in the Polish Parliament over this discussion of German rearmament.
Oh, interesting. Right. And do you have the same instinct now?
I said as long as Germany is in NATO and the EU, I fear German pacifism more than I fear German rearmament.
Interesting. Interesting.
Just on that one, because I'm tempted to sort of try to understand this. One of the strange things during the German elections was the sight of J.D. Vance reaching out to the AfD, Elon Musk very much getting behind them.
Boy.
And I thought there was something quite strange about the United States, or these leading figures at least, being very much in favor of increasing defense spending, you know, Europe spending 5% on GDP, but also trying to support nationalist movements across Europe. And I was thinking, you know, what can possibly go wrong? Let's give them lots of guns and then let's support the nationalists. This doesn't seem like a very good recipe.
Well, it's even stranger than that. Our current opposition party
Even stranger.
in Poland, which is also nationalist, actually, when I was a member of the European Parliament, I saw them collaborating and cheering one another on. I think what unites them is hostility towards the European Union, which, by the way,
That is true. That also united the Law and Justice Party with Viktor Orban's Fidesz party.
all nationalists share.
Yeah.
I was in the chamber in Strasbourg when Nigel Farage was making his last speech to the European Parliament. I hope he enjoys his European Parliament pension. I'm sure he's upset to be accepting it in euros.
And also, and to have his children with German passports as well. I was hoping to get through the whole interview without talking about Nigel Farage, but just briefly, your views on Brexit when you were in the kind of right-wing conservative circles in Britain, your views on Brexit
Horrible.
at the time of the referendum, and your views on Brexit now.
Well, you asked me about Lady Thatcher, and I now think that the seeds of Brexit were planted in the 1980s. So on the one hand, it was under Margaret Thatcher that Britain signed the Single European Act, which made EU law a primary. And also it was a British invention to set up the single market. But there was an undertone of nationalism, of regarding, I now explain it to myself that former empires that have not been defeated in war find it psychologically impossible
Germany is selling a lot of weapons to a lot of parties.
to live under rules that are not made by themselves, that are negotiated. In that sense, you're similar to Turkey. Although Turkey is now more integrated with the EU than Britain, which is sad.
And at the time, if you were no longer a British citizen when the referendum came, you'd have voted Remain?
Yes, I would. And the other way in which the seeds of Brexit were planted in the 1980s is that the British public was consistently misled by, not just by politicians, but also by the press, about how the EU actually works. And confession, I was a Eurosceptic at that time because I was reading reputable British newspapers, and they...
Boris Johnson in the Daily Telegraph, for example.
But not only.
Yeah.
You could not make out how a European directive is actually made by reading the British press. You were left with the impression that it's faceless bureaucrats in Brussels who cook it up and then impose it on the member states. That is absolutely not.
There you go. Sikorski was an Eurosceptic in the 80s, and my father was fighting for the country. Again, I have to point that out. Okay.
How a directive is made. For a directive to come into force, not only do you need an agreement of the member states, and on majority of cases unanimously, you need an agreement of the European Parliament. And the Commission is not a bunch of faceless bureaucrats. Commissioners are appointed by democratically elected governments. Now that I know how it works, because I've worked the system, I don't know how you could make it even any more democratic than that.
One of the people who was one of the great champions of this vision of the European Union was, of course, Boris Johnson. I mean, he created his career in Brussels, creating these apparently comical stories about straight bananas, about condoms being different sizes, about all these kind of directives. And I wonder whether...
Straight condom bananas?
Now that you're deeper in politics, whether this question about the relationship between, I don't want to sound too pompous, but between truth and political action becomes more important.
Well, since I have this experience, I have taken it upon myself to prevent the Polish people having the same trick played on them. The difficulty in Britain was that politicians felt constrained to counter the myths and the lies. And I do it almost every day so that the misrepresentation doesn't get accepted as reality. Because in Poland, we have similar nationalists peddling similar lies.
True.
But in Poland, we give counter to them. And in your Brexit referendum, the government's argument was, yeah, well, this EU, it's everything you say, but it's in our economic interest to stay. That's not a good enough argument. You have to make the case for and we keep making the case for.
Can I just sort of bring you into the bigger conversation around populism? The
Brexit was such a mess, was such a fiasco. God, I still remember thinking that it would not actually happen. That it was such a horrible, stupid idea that everybody would just cancel it and back away and quietly return to how things were. If I would be a Polish politician, my slogan would be Polish condos should be made in Poland. True.
election of the Law and Justice
And Polish condoms as well.
Party in Poland in 2015 is just before the Brexit referendum. And I guess there's something very interesting about what's happening about 10 years ago in populism throughout Europe. It starts maybe in Hungary. There were earlier Polish versions of this. But what is this phenomenon? How did it get going? How do you understand its causes? How would you describe it?
And how do we stop it?
So first of all, remember that in 2015, our populists won by a fluke. They got 38% of the vote, which in a proportional representation system doesn't normally give you an overall majority. Our left-wing party missed the 8% threshold for coalitions by 30,000 votes. And if they'd got the extra 30,000 votes, which was actually literally one television debate, everything would have been different. But yes, Poland has the same issues of populism as Britain, as France, as Germany, as the United States. And it's, populists are skilled at proposing simple solutions to difficult problems. Also, electorates everywhere have told us, fix migration. Or else, or we will choose people who will, and some cultural issues I think also play a role. I mean, this is a big debate which we are not going to resolve here.
You
said that
some cultural issues. The right winger in Sikorski is coming out. I would like to hear about those cultural issues, Mr. Sikorski. I wanna hear. Tell us about the cultural issues, please.
Rebutting.
I wanna listen to the debate.
You're out fighting against the lies and so forth. But in a sense, the presidential election, which, your party narrowly lost to a populist, which was being seen as a bit of a defeat for Donald Tusk. And
it was, actually, factually, it was a big defeat for the whole coalition.
The government. Does that show that maybe you didn't successfully rebut the sort of things that you have to do if you're going to fight this stuff?
Poland is split down the middle into the nationalist part and the pro-European part. And who wins depends sometimes on technical issues and sometimes on mobilization.
But do you feel overall you're winning the big arguments right now?
Well, you asked me what it was like to be in Britain, to arrive in Britain in the 1980s. I'll tell you what, if at that time someone would told me that there will come a moment when Poland will be in the EU and Britain will not be, and that in Britain they would be having a serious political debate about Poland possibly overtaking Britain economically, I would have said that's pure fantasy. And yet here we are.
Okay, Deputy Prime Minister, Alistair, let's have a quick break and then back for more.
I would have laughed at that as well, by the way. I would have laughed at that as well. I'm used to Poland being super poor, actually. In my mind, Poland is still like a super, super poor country. Believe it or not. In my psyche.
Could move on to two of the really big issues that have kind of been dominating global debate and politics in recent months. We'll come on to Ukraine. I think really want to get your views on how that will resolve itself. But you're very, very strongly pro-Israel. And I just...
No. Wait a second.
Okay.
Poland is in favor of a two-state solution.
Mm-hmm.
Poland has recognized Palestine for decades. Mm-hmm. There is a fully accredited Palestinian ambassador.
I think this is the one. I think this might be the. Will this be the thing when Sikorski is gonna say the really bad thing about Israel Palestine? I'm worried. I'm worried that this might be the thing where Sikorski says really cringe thing.
Warsaw. And we have repeatedly criticized the overuse of force by Israel, the
Genocide equals overuse of force. Okay.
breaking of international humanitarian law, and the illegal settlements in the West Bank.
And is
So
that,
yes, because of history, you are
What
in
about the genocide?
which once had the largest ghetto, second largest, I think, after Warsaw. And so there is a lot of history. But we see the tragedy of both peoples.
how have you found that from being somebody who I think instinctively, and I'm not saying this remotely in a critical way, who instinctively feels support for the state of Israel? How have you found
the
that?
existence of
Existing state of
Israel's in security within internationally recognized borders.
Okay, but how have you felt over the last couple of years in seeing the sense of that Israel and how it projects itself to the outside world
Do you mean genocide?
by its conduct inside Gaza?
Obviously, there's a wave of criticism. What I don't get is how people can criticize Israel without mentioning what caused this current wave of violence.
Okay, I'm sorry, but October 7th does not give carte blanche for genocide, okay? Like, you cannot say, oh, there's a genocide, but, it was caused by Hamas attacking and killing 1,000 people. No, just come on, Sikorski. Come on, don't do this. Don't do this to us.
It was a heinous terrorist attack by Hamas, which, by the way, destroyed the peace party in
Like,
Israel.
come on, you cannot just be like, oh, Hamas did the attack and therefore genocide. Understandable, this just doesn't click. I'm sorry.
And harmed the Palestinian cause.
You've been at this game for a very long time now. One of the things that I think is very difficult to get across to people is what it's like being a minister. How do you explain to people what the difference is between being a minister or being a business person or being a journalist or running an NGO? What is the essence? What is the strangeness of being a minister that people
It's journalists can be more honest.
don't understand?
I'm sometimes asked what's the difference between foreign minister and defense minister. But yes, it's in I don't know exactly how it works in Britain, but in the Polish constitutional system, the ministry...
The whole Hamas argument is just silly. I'm sorry. At this point, it's just...
is just an addition to the person of the minister. You are responsible for foreign policy.
This is
And it carries a lot of responsibility. I was for 4 years a deputy, which helps to prepare you.
How does the relationship between a government of one party with a president of another who has some influence and involvement in foreign policy, how does that actually work in practice?
Lucky you to have a limited constitutional monarchy, huh?
Well, tell me how it works.
It's a challenge. I try to explain to myself that it's like the Roman Republic with 2 consuls simultaneously.
Where does actual real power lie?
So our constitution makes the prime minister the head of the executive branch, and the president is basically head of state and a representative of the country abroad with the veto power. So our Charles is Charles III plus the veto.
So how did you feel, all that being said, how did you feel when the president of the United States, I think on 2 occasions during the campaign, invited your opponent, who is the president, to the Oval Office and gave him his political blessing?
I mean, they are ideologically aligned, so it makes perfect sense.
Well, we used to have this rule among democracies that we don't interfere in each other's party political processes.
Yeah, but fascists don't care about such things, so that's a non-argument.
Most of us still do.
But we did interfere in the politics of dictatorships on behalf of democracy. And now it's the other way around.
Hold on. So you kind of are moving towards my view that the United States under Trump is becoming an autocracy.
No. Nice try, but no, I didn't say that.
But it's actually it is astonishing. I mean, for me as somebody who used to be a diplomat,
Interesting. I mean, this is why I said that journalists can be more honest, by the way. He cannot say that as a politician. He cannot say, even if he thought that, he could not possibly say that as a foreign minister. He could not. There's no way in hell he would ever say that in his official capacity as a foreign minister, not as long as he has to actually deal with Trump's government and Trump himself. Okay? There's no way in hell that he would ever say, "Oh yeah, sure, Trump's an autocrat."
then became a politician and now no longer a politician. This change is very dramatic because even in Kenya, the American government was very scrupulous not to choose sides in an election. And now suddenly we have it being made clear that they want the AfD to win in Germany. You know, there was a moment where there was very fierce
Especially Elon Musk.
criticism against Keir Starmer, essentially supporting Farage and now supporting a guy called Tommy Robinson, who's beyond Farage. It's a very
God,
strange
Tommy
moment. I mean, I wonder whether you can help us understand how this is happening, why this is happening.
Well, I'll refuse this invitation to interfere in the politics of our great ally. But as you know, there is a Chinese curse. May your dreams come true.
There you go. He cannot say certain things as a politician, as an acting politician. He just cannot. Because he does not want to ruin certain relations, certain international relations.
Push one more time. Tell us a little bit. We've interviewed your wife, Anne Applebaum.
He is very much constrained in what he is about to say. I'll say that much.
About populism.
I have to say here that she's a separate subject of the international law, okay?
She's a separate subject. We're not going to get you to talk about her. But the subject that she discussed with us, of course, was populism. And I wonder whether you could explain what it felt like in Poland. As you pointed out, there are versions in Britain, there are versions in Italy, there are versions in Germany. But in the Polish context, what did it mean in practice? How threatening was it? How dangerous was it to democracy?
I can quote you words and populist actions from literally the last 48 hours. So our opposition party has just had a huge convention at which the leader, the former prime minister, Kaczynski, said that Poland's independence is threatened by this German and French attempt to take away our statehood. This is at a
Yes. I love how Law and Justice always says that Germany is building a new empire and is trying to take away the sovereignty of Poland. That is a constant talking point. That is a really, really constant
time
talking
when
point.
there are Russian drones and missiles 250 kilometers from here killing people. So, you know, in the Polish context, we feel that the enemy is in the east. We don't feel culturally or civilizationally threatened by the West. This is us, the pro-European part of the political spectrum. You know, my parents' generation and myself, we dreamt of Poland being normal when we were under communism, and normal we defined as just a regular Western European country. And we've achieved that. And we were, at that time, assaulted by communist propaganda talking about the rotten West. And now
I mean, the West has a lot of problems, I'm not gonna lie.
we have, you know, our competitors
lie.
talking about rotten West. And it's just extraordinary because of cultural issues to do with sexual minorities and the pace of social change. And some people are being hoodwinked by that kind of simplistic propaganda.
What do they mean by France and Germany trying to take away your statehood? Just being members of the European Union?
Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
Which is absurd because France and Germany on their own don't even have a blocking minority, let alone a majority.
One more just on this, the judiciary. Explain what had happened with the judiciary in Poland and how worried should we have been? I mean, some people said, okay, these guys were in for 10 years roughly in Poland, but they're not such a big deal. I don't know why people call them populists. I don't know why people call them authoritarians. It's not the end of the world. It's the European Union. Everything's fine. Try to explain what it was actually like. Why was it dangerous? Why was it something to be concerned about?
You see, the conclusion of this already 10 years of experiments in various countries with populism should be, in my view, that institutions are much more fragile than we think.
Yeah.
That constitutions are only as good as the sense of probity and the willingness
The United States currently is a great example of that.
to stand
Of
up
institutions being more fragile than we thought.
by the people who man them, who have the duties to uphold constitutions. I remember even in Britain, do you remember the headline with the portraits of judges, enemies of the people?
We just talked to the former Supreme Court judge
Right.
about that.
So in Poland, until 10 years ago, we had a system basically of judges electing themselves, with a minority being elected by parliament. And our nationalist competitors in my view, broke the constitution by electing a much larger number of them by politicians. And so we now have judges elected by a previous system and judges elected under this politicized system. And what I will put to you is that it's all very complicated, but the function of the judiciary is not only to pass judgment, but also to maintain the appearance of impartiality. And whatever you think about the rights and wrong, that has certainly been lost. So before these populist reforms, I never asked myself when going to court, is this judge from left wing or right wing, or, who is he sympathetic to? And I'm afraid these days, most people ask themselves, what kind of judge he is politically. And that's a loss.
And is it fixable? Is it reversible?
It is very difficult to fix it.
It is
Once
very difficult,
institutions lose it takes decades to build up authority and only a few months to lose it.
And what about you as foreign minister responsible for?
Yeah, some of these things are being fixed till now. And now there's a president that can just veto these efforts. It's all a bit of a mess. Polish politics are a mess. What can I say? What can I say except Polish politics are a messy, messy mess.
For example, of the appointment of ambassadors. What happens when a political party appoints ambassadors on a political party basis? And have you had to withdraw lots of them?
So yes, I inherited more than 50% of ambassadors who were not diplomats, who were party political ambassadors, and plus some vacancies. So I'm trying to now make the foreign service professional again.
And unfixing media reform as well?
Same thing, yeah. I mean,
Make foreign policy professional again. Oh boy.
the media, imagine the BBC taken over by Breitbart, literally. To give you an example, because people sometimes don't quite believe it. So during the COVID pandemic, Donald Tusk, he was at that time president of EPP, addressed the congresses of various EPP parties.
This is the European Conservative grouping.
That's right.
Yeah.
And among others, CDU. And being a good politician, he would always include a few sentences in the native language of that
A good politician.
of that party. And so he said remotely, because this was during COVID, good luck in your deliberations, but think not only what's good for Germany, für Deutschland, but primarily what's good for Europe. And so what they did, they took these two words, für Deutschland, and they repeated it on main television news hundreds of times. Now, if you
that is very classic Law and Justice, national TV programming.
This kind of bias, you cannot tolerate that. So we had to bring back professionalism to state media.
What was going on with
The state media was just a propaganda tube. I still remember that. That was embarrassing. Oh, thank God it was purged. Yeah, I'm not afraid to say it. The national TV had to be literally purged. It had to be torn down and built up from the ground up.
ownership of media, and how about relationship with universities? I mean, how did that work during this populist period?
Well, first of all, again, value what you have. The BBC, where facts are checked. You might complain about
what what an embarrassing moment when the BBC is being sued by Trump for $1 billion because they made that weird edit of his January 6th speech. Ugh, God, the BBC is in hot water now. Maybe I should talk about this today. That's not a good look for the BBC.
Apply the bias this way or that way, but people don't outright invent stuff, and they don't attack politicians in that kind of way, right? So yes, universities
God, that was such a bad move by the BBC.
are also usually the first victim of populists, because universities are autonomous, and universities should and then do care about truth, about establishing facts, about free inquiry.
Which is why Trump is attacking universities. Exactly. This is exactly why Trump is attacking them.
And populists, by definition, don't like that.
So can you give us an example? Try to illustrate what was happening in the university so we can understand this.
Well, we had an assault on freedom of debate in, under the heading that there are that universities supposedly became,
Woke?
the spiel,
Hotbeds of left-wing activism.
Yeah, and my view is, lefties are also should be allowed to function at universities,
You've got
Donald Trump is the prime example.
to go. We're at this
I
conference.
wish they brought that up. I wish they brought it up for him that Trump is assaulting universities. Then I wanna see Sikorski squirm.
Where the star attractions are you, obviously, me, obviously, and later George Clooney, and you have to go and do a paddle in a few minutes. But I just wanted to maybe close by bringing us back to Ukraine. You mentioned the drones recently, the drone attacks, and another quote from a speech of yours. Poland has learnt over 500 years that when the Russians threaten, you take it seriously. How alarmed, how scared are Poles about what's happening over in Ukraine?
We think that if Putin succeeded in conquering Ukraine, we would be next. And it's happened before, which is why we've been spending a solid 2% of GDP on defense for 20 years, and we're now spending 4.7% of GDP.
And the public are fine with that. They understand that and they get that.
It's amusing when my colleague, the finance minister, attends his meetings, his equivalents ask him, how do you manage to have such a huge... And he says, well, I'd be eviscerated if I didn't. We will eat grass rather than become a Russian colony again.
True. And even the Law and Justice sort of understood this, by the way.
Final one from me. Europe. How can we imagine
I like that. We will sooner eat grass than be a Russian colony again. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna use that saying.
a more ambitious European security infrastructure, sovereignty, the UK re-engaging Norway, Switzerland, Turkey, the Western Balkans? How do we think about Europe taking the lead? Because clearly there are some challenges from the US, there are challenges from China, but Europe doesn't seem to be stepping up. How do we get Europe to step up?
It's a fundamental constitutional issue. Europe is a confederation. In other words, an organization in which ultimate sovereignty lies with the member states. And all historic confederations either became federations or ceased to exist. And when you look...
I genuinely think that the European Union should federalize. That's my hot take for the day.
at our competition, they all have unity of command. We don't. We have a synchronization problem, which is particularly acute, obviously, in the area of defense, because it's the core of sovereignty. This is a crisis in which I believe we should stick together, because otherwise we'll be
I agree as well. We should not have this very fragmented defense industry where every country has their own separate industry and we do not produce en masse as we could. It's just, and we produce at a higher cost than we could. It becomes sort of a wasted money for NATO, for European countries to spend 5% GDP on defense if it's not coordinated, if it's fragmented. It just becomes a waste of money, to be quite honest with you. It just becomes a waste of money.
separately, not only in the defense area, but particularly in the trade area.
Do you think we should be moving towards when we say common defense and security policy?
Yes.
that is absolutely what we
definitely,
mean.
yes.
Common.
We have it in theory under the Lisbon Treaty, but what I believe we need is not only
We need a unified industry. That definitely there needs to be a unified industry, a unified standard, a coordinated production cycle.
common policy to reinvigorate Europe's defense
En masse.
industries. I'm in favor of the European Union starting to have some defense capability of our own so that we don't have to call on the United States in every emergency.
Yep.
We should be capable of sorting out some warlord in Libya or the Balkans next time round.
My final question, quite a big one. I want to
Sorting
ask you
out.
whether in our lifetime, you're a few years younger than I am, but we're sort of both in our 60s. If in our lifetime,
Hello, Emily. Yes.
Ukraine will be a member of NATO and the European Union, and how does that journey happen,
see.
and whether the UK
We'll see.
will ever be back in the European Union?
That I don't know, but UK. But I think Ukraine will become a member of the EU at the beginning of next decade.
Okay.
We'll see. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on if we will have all member states of the EU agreeing. I mean, Viktor Orban is arguably on the way out, and Viktor Orban is a huge obstacle to Ukraine joining the European Union. We'll see. We'll just have to see how things develop. I don't want to make predictions. I don't want to make hasty predictions on that.
How?
Well, it's already a candidate. We are already negotiating.
But enlargement is really hard for those who are already candidates.
It is, but Europe approved Ukraine's status as a candidate, and
Yeah, and Viktor Orban is really insisting that he will never allow Ukraine to join the European Union. So, and then you have Slovakia, then you have the Czech Republic that has shifted in policy. It's not that simple. It's not that simple.
Europe unanimously agreed to start negotiations. And Hungary is blocking progress,
There you
but
go.
it'll happen eventually.
And
And let me say one thing: that if Britain chooses to reapply to the European Union, I can trust you that I can promise you that whoever is in charge in Poland, we will vote in favor.
excellent. Good news. Just on that point a bit. So for Ukraine to get to that, though, Russia cannot be allowed to win.
No.
So how does that happen? Are you confident that the Americans and the other European countries are as committed to Ukraine as you are?
Well, Ukraine is planning for a 3-year war, and these colonial wars usually take about a decade. And I don't think Putin can sustain it for another 3 years. And
It depends on how much can Ukraine adapt. It depends on how much the West will actually deliver support. It depends on how much support Putin's allies will deliver. Again, there are a lot of moving parts here that it's not as easy as to say definitely Ukraine will outlast Russia and vice versa. It's just, I don't think it's as easy to speculate on.
They're about to supply Ukraine the means to resist for another 3 years out of the frozen Russian assets. Ukraine now makes almost half of its drones and cruise missiles in Ukraine. Putin has
That is true, but Russia has caught up when it comes to the amount of drones. So
underperformed. We thought he had the world's second army, and he thought there would be a coup, it would be a cakewalk, 3-day operation. And more than 10 years, he's still fighting in Donbass. I would not call that a victory.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
You've got about 3 minutes to get to the stage and talk to the Polish people.
And George Clooney.
And I don't think he's coming. I think he's only...
that's it. That's all. That's all they wrote about this interview. That was interesting. That was interesting, wasn't it? I think that was a very nice video. I'm glad we watched it, and I'm very happy to say that I am a hardcore Polish nationalist. Ooh, I Things are things are not well. Things are not well. I'm gonna be a very pessimistic person tonight. But I want to do a very positive segment right now. I want to do a positive segment and I want to fill your hearts with hope and love. Is that what you wanna from me? Well, okay, I'm gonna talk about a very negative subject, but I still wanna fill your hearts with hope that life is not bad. Okay, let's go. I think it's time for us to do a little bit of an update on well, there's so many interesting topics here. But I wanna human safari. Independence Day. I wanted to talk about Pokrovsk. Okay. There has to be something about Pokrovsk here. Poland's Independence Day. Because okay, I guess I'm just gonna have to look for Pokrovsk elsewhere. Final act in Pokrovsk. Here we go. We're gonna be talking about Pokrovsk, aren't we? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We're gonna look some tools. 24 hours. Where is it? Because we are reaching the final act on Pokrovsk, a quite an important place. The place that had in its vicinity the big coal mine that produced that helped in a lot of the steel industry for Ukraine. It was just a very important hub for logistics. It is a very important fortress. It is on elevated ground. It is a very big place for defense. There is a lot of discussion on how gaining this city will give Russia a lot of opportunity to strike into many different places, as that is one of those important defensive positions for Ukraine to hold, and that it seems like Ukraine is about to lose that city. Russia said its forces had pushed deeper into the eastern Ukrainian cities of Pokrovsk and Kupiansk on Tuesday, with one video showing Russian soldiers rolling into Pokrovsk on motorbikes and even on the roofs of battered cars and vans, which it might sound sad, it might sound pathetic on paper, but it doesn't change the fact that no matter the cost, no matter on what battered equipment, Russia just seems to be pushing forward. Moscow says taking Pokrovsk, dubbed the gateway to Donetsk by Russian media, would give it a platform to drive north towards the two biggest remaining Ukrainian-controlled cities in the Donetsk region, Kramatorsk and Slovyansk. Russia has been threatening Pokrovsk for more than a year. Russia was supposed to capture Pokrovsk last Christmas, so Ukraine has definitely been holding on for far more than was anticipated. Unfortunately, it seems like Ukraine has also not built defense lines beyond Pokrovsk, which might turn to be a detriment. Using a pincer movement to attempt to encircle it and threaten supply lines rather than the deadly frontal assaults it employed to capture the city of Bakhmut in 2023. Ukraine's military said about 300 Russian soldiers were now inside Pokrovsk, that Moscow has intensified efforts to get more troops in over the past few days using dense fog for cover. Yes, I actually remember. I've seen the footage of Russian soldiers moving on. Users said looked like scenes from the 1979 action film Mad Max, which unfolds in a post-apocalyptic landscape. There's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about the degradation of the army. There's something to be said about the state of the armed forces of Russia. There's definitely something to be discussed about that. It is definitely not the image of a modern, powerful military force. The video showed Russian forces on motorcycles and in an odd assortment of cars and other vehicles. Many vehicles missing doors and windows were shown. Driving along a road strewn with debris, soldiers looked on. Some Russian soldiers sat on the roof of a battered vehicle. A drone was seen beside the road. Reuters was able to confirm the location of the video as Pokrovsk from the road layout, signs, utility tower, and trees seen in the video, which matched file and satellite imagery on the area. Reuters was not able to independently verify the date of the footage. And then you have that Russia and Ukraine are giving contrasting accounts of battle, which makes actually perfect sense because this war is not just happening on the ground. This is very much also a war of information. War of misinformation, war of information, of trying to build and lead the narrative. That is definitely something that is happening. Moscow and Kyiv have given different accounts of the battle for Pokrovsk. Moscow has for days said the city is encircled, while Kyiv has denied Moscow controls the city and said on Monday that it was still able to supply neighboring Mirnohrad. It is difficult. The situation is definitely extremely difficult for Pokrovsk. Open source battlefield maps from both sides show that Russia has executed a pincer movement around the city and are close to closing it, though Kyiv has counterattacked around the town of Dobropilya. And the troops inside this pot are in danger. Ukraine's top military commander Alexander Syrsky, in an interview with the New York Post, said Russia was concentrating some 150,000 troops in a drive to capture Pokrovsk, with mechanized groups and marine brigades part of the push. Russia said its forces had taken full control of the eastern part of Kupiansk in Ukraine's Kharkiv region and were actively advancing to the northwest and east of Pokrovsk. It does seem like the fall of the city is inevitable. It does seem like it is a matter of time. And what value will Pokrovsk have for the Russian forces? And how well can Ukraine prepare for future fights? Like, the whole thing about the situation right now is Ukraine wishes to engage Russia in offensives that are so costly, that enact such a heavy loss for the Russian soldiers, that it would just become unsustainable for Russia. That is the main goal for Ukraine right now, to make these sort of offensives like the ones in Pokrovsk unsustainable, that Russia will be forced to negotiate rather than to push forward, because the loss in personnel, loss in equipment will just become too much for it to make sense to continue. And speaking of which, speaking of Pokrovsk, because I think that this is always a worthy endeavor to do, that is always as a budding journalist, I want to talk about a piece of brilliant journalism, which I'm going to copy here. Pokrovsk is a very interesting topic. Pokrovsk is being talked about right now in basically all of the media, because it is a very crucial time of this war. It is a very important moment in time. And just as it is important to understand what is happening right now in Pokrovsk, I feel like it is equally important to understand how is it that we got here? How did things deteriorate in Pokrovsk to the point that it did right now? And just so it happens, there is a very cool documentary that basically goes through 1 year in Pokrovsk. It documents the changes throughout 1 year, how the city went from people being there, trying to function in there, to the city becoming more and more destroyed, to the people not being there anymore, to the stores from operating to being destroyed, presenting shallow graves within the city because evacuating dead bodies became too much of a risk. It's all documented in this video that I'm gonna link right now. Here you go. I'm linking it on YouTube. Here you go. I'm linking it on the side chat. At least I want to do it. I wanna link it on the side chat. I will in a moment. Boom. And we might as well check it out. We might as well check out some of it, because it's a really good documentary and I feel like it should get more recognition. Should definitely get more recognition than it does. And if I can get a few more looks, a few more views on it, then that is a great thing. Let's take a look. Look at this. 1 hour 49 minutes of documenting how things went throughout the year in Pokrovsk. I'm gonna watch a minute maybe of it, and then you should get a little bit of an idea. Buffering. Believe it or not, this is actually not the Carol of the Bells. This is music composed in Ukraine by a Ukrainian composer. The Carol of the Bells is based on this Ukrainian piece of music that was actually composed in Pokrovsk, which is why the significance of the track here.
I'm embedded with the 59th Mechanized Brigade, fighting 25 kilometers outside of the industrial hub of Pokrov City, in a small town called Halisinivka. We are on a fire mission, with a Grad rocket artillery team trying to eliminate Russian forces that are advancing in the Donetsk region. The Grad team is using shoot-and-scoot tactics, dangerous work in the age of 24/7 drone coverage of the front line, with the enemy always looking for movement.
This, as I said, this is very interesting. This is a very good documentary. We're not gonna play much more of it, but I definitely highly recommend anybody who still has not watched it to watch it in full, because it's just a really good piece of journalism. It really shows how things progressed or regressed, if you, depending on how you want to look at it. I definitely 100% recommend you all to watch it. This is my highest recommendation. Okay, here you go. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. And learning Japanese. So, any thoughts? Because I feel like I have to shake. Sometimes I feel like I have to shake the chat into activity. Sometimes I feel like the chat is getting very lethargic. I feel like the chat is getting very inactive. And the chat has been very active earlier tonight, so. That is my fault though. That it is that the fact that I started stream so late is on me. Well, it's not exactly on me. It's like I didn't have electricity. Warzone streaming. In fact, there is a possibility that I might lose there's a possibility that I might lose electricity still, so hold on. I'm gonna check something, okay? I'll be right back. Wow. So anybody still here? Anybody still any am I still live? I wonder. Starting to wonder if I'm still live. Or if the internet has died or something. Wow. A generous God. Oh yeah, I might as well change the title of the stream. Because we're past that. Polish anti-Ukraine sentiment. We're going to discuss that a bit. I think that might be a thing that I want to talk about. Hold on. Just gonna check something real quick. Live. Okay, that's okay. Fine. This is fine. All right, really quick. This is going to be the last thing that we do tonight. Poland and Ukraine must stride shoulder to shoulder, says Zelensky, as Poles mark Independence Day. This is all very complicated. The Independence Day marks an independence march, which is a very far-right nationalistic march, which is a breeding ground for anti-Ukrainian sentiment. Actually, there's been a lot of anti-Ukrainian sentiment. There's been a lot of propaganda by a very far-right Polish party called the Confederation of the Crown, very populist slogans about Ukrainian people, very populist slogans about how the war is being supported in Poland, and it has unfortunately found a lot of fertile ground as anti-Ukraine sentiment has been on the rise, and I think that is a very horrible development. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has congratulated Poles on their Independence Day, saying Poland and Ukraine must stride shoulder to shoulder in Europe to defend freedom. It's a very big shame that another fueling, like another aspect to this is the newly elected president of Poland, Karol Nawrocki, who is very openly antagonistic towards Ukraine, who likes very loudly talking about historical wrongs by Ukraine, who likes to talk about the how ungrateful Ukraine is. There's a lot of very negative rhetoric being flown around. A lot of misinformation about Ukraine and Ukrainian people. Zelensky joined a chorus of international leaders who sent congratulations to Poland as the nation celebrated the 107th anniversary of regaining independence on Tuesday, which of course was yesterday. Earlier in the day, the U.S. ambassador to Poland, Thomas Rose, conveyed President Donald Trump's best wishes, while the presidents of Lithuania and Latvia also congratulated Warsaw. Heartfelt congratulations to all Poles, President of Poland, Karol Nawrocki, and Prime Minister Donald Tusk on the National Independence Day, Zelensky wrote on social media platform X. You have a duality here. You have this duality of Poland celebrating its independence, on Zelensky speaking of needing to stride hand by hand, but on the other hand, but also those relations becoming difficult because of the sheer amount of misinformation and propaganda that is being pumped into the consciousness of Polish people. There is a very, very good time for Russia when it comes to misinformation and propaganda that is being pushed by the willing, useful idiots from the far-right parties in Poland. He added, "The path we have traversed shows that to preserve our independence and strength, independent Poland and independent Ukraine must stride shoulder to shoulder. We deeply appreciate all the support since February 24th, 2022, and we must be strong, we must be in Europe, so that others in Europe can also stand tall and free." Thanking Zelensky, Poland's Donald Tusk wrote on X, "Thank you very much, Mr. President. Heartfelt thanks. Long live the independent republic, glory to Ukraine." I just wish I wish more of that sentiment was expressed, and I wish that less misinformation was being pumped into the public sphere in Poland, because the sad reality is that overall support for Ukraine has dropped significantly within the Polish population. And that is in large part due to misinformation and propaganda. A lot of rhetoric about how Poland is supporting Ukraine too much, about how refugees are getting too much, even though Ukrainian refugees put a significant amount into the Polish GDP, even though defending Ukraine from Russia, even though helping Ukraine defend itself against Russia is very much within the Polish national interest. Warsaw is one of Kyiv's staunchest allies as it continues to fend off Russian aggression. Poland also serves as a major logistics hub for Western military aid bound for Ukraine. And also, it seems like Poland, in absolute terms, is ranked as the third country when it comes to how much money it has given in aid to Ukraine. And that is military aid as well as humanitarian aid. Poland regained its independence on November 11th, 1918. With the end of World War I, the country renewed statehood followed more than 120 years of being partitioned between Germany, Russia, and Austro-Hungary. There's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot to... I myself have been experiencing a lot of anti-Ukrainian sentiment on Twitter. I have seen a lot more posts than before. I am seeing a lot more people very brazenly expressing anti-Ukrainian sentiment. And it's a shame. It's a shame because that is just something that benefits Russia in the short as well as in the long term. That is my opinion, at least. Also, some person on Twitch called Bosak Seka 1995. What are you talking about? What do you talk about, bro? I mean, I'm not really talking about any complicated subject. If you're having problems following, then I don't know what to tell you. Not really covering anything super complicated. Okay, so I guess we're gonna finish for tonight. My apologies for starting the stream so late, and I guess I'll see you. I'll raid you into somebody. Maybe... VegCon. Here you go. All right. See you. I'll see you. Bye-bye.